Some people party, some people stay home, some people apparently go out for a camping trip on New Year's. Those are the people that never come back. This is Darkness Prevails, the place to share your true stories with the world, because this world is a strange one. This disturbing, allegedly true story is all the reason you need why staying home for the New Year's might be your best bet. Because when you go out in the woods while everyone else is at home or at parties with friends and loved ones, there's no one around to hear you scream. Happy New Year's. Maybe your resolution should be to survive. This is Why You Shouldn't Go Camping on New Year's, a story submitted by Zachary C. Charles. Enjoy. It was 2016, but not for long. It was the day before New Year's Eve, and me and a friend of mine were hanging on the couch that night, talking about our plans to bring in the new year. We all know how much 2016 sucked, and I wanted to do something to take my mind off of everything. My friend, Terry, was going to go to a party, get some Molly, have a time he probably wasn't even going to remember. But I wasn't into that. No, I wanted to be away from other people this year. I thought having a clear head would just be more fun, more peaceful, especially after all the stress of 2016. So I decided last minute that tomorrow night I was going camping. No ball drop, no countdown, just a campfire and some crickets wishing me a great new year. That night I packed my hammock and a tarp, a couple of flashlights and a pack of batteries, beef jerky and some water. Everything I would need to make sure I wouldn't have to worry about surviving. I was definitely no survivor man. New Year's night, I left around 7:30. I traveled to the Panhandle National Forests of Idaho. If you haven't been in the woods of Idaho, it's evergreens as far as the eye can see, like an ocean of pine trees and nothing else. I would have recommended visiting the place, but not after what happened to me out there. I wouldn't wish it on my enemy. By 8 o'clock that night, I was in the middle of the woods, backpack and tarp in hand. The woods were quite normal that night, except for how warm it was for that time of year. Global warming, I guess. There were crickets chirping, the occasional owl hooting, and just my footsteps cracking the twigs underfoot. So all in all, it was very peaceful. But I'm not gonna sit here and lie to your face about not being creeped out. Anytime I've ever stepped into the woods, daylight or nighttime or with friends, I've always felt a little bit of dread. I've always thought it was natural, you know? Stepping away from your comfort zone and lazy boy recliner and going into the wild. Turns out there might be a pretty good reason, or probably evolutionary reason, why your body is telling you the woods are scary. So I found a couple of trees close enough together that I could set up my hammock and my tarp above it. I started a quick little campfire with a small bottle of kerosene and some matches. Afterwards, I chewed on some beef jerky and I watched the stars. It was a gorgeous night. I found myself with my eyes closed, lying on my back, thinking, why don't I do this more often? I was making mental plans, setting dates and schedules of when I could come back out here. Soon enough, it was bedtime. I took my shoes off, got up and started to kick the dirt onto the fire. I probably should have left my shoes on for that, because that was when I kicked a little too far and ended up stepping on one of the burning logs and scorching a centimeter patch of skin on my foot. Ow, dang it, that hurt, I said out loud, as I usually would when I unexpectedly hurt myself, though it could have been worse. Before I could reach for my water bottle to cool off my burn, I heard something that made my eyelids peel wide open, and the hair on the back of my neck stick straight up.
Wouldn't matter.
It was a deep and raspy voice. I couldn't tell what it had tried to say, but when you hear something like that in the middle of the woods, it tells you a couple of things. One, you're not alone. And two, whatever it was no animal. I paused for a long time, trying not to make a sound, to see if the noise came again. And it did, maybe 3 minutes after I first heard it.
Wow, Dean, that hurt.
I winced this time. What? I said under my breath. Were they trying to copy what I just said? But any person could do that easily. This person or thing was having trouble repeating what I said. In that way, it didn't sound like a person. It sounded more like something that didn't know how to talk and was trying its best to repeat what it had heard. Then it came again, and when I heard it this time, I wanted to vomit.
Ow! Dang it, that hurt.
Because the way it said it this time, it mimicked my voice perfectly, like a freaking recording. I knew it was time to go. I decided to keep quiet. For all I knew, this thing didn't know where I was exactly, so I thought it'd be better to keep quiet. What I didn't know I was doing as I untied my hammock from the tree was whispering to myself. Come on, come on, I whispered almost silently, trying to intimidate the hammock into untying faster. But impossibly, that voice erupted once more, now only a few feet behind me, almost close enough to feel the breath of it on my neck.
Come on, come on,
it said. It mimicked the words I had said, but not my voice this time. Instead, it seemed to use its own, a voice so deep and guttural, it was almost impossible to tell it was speaking words at all. I froze for a moment, waiting for some cold hand or razor-sharp claw to land on my shoulder from behind me. But when I heard a solitary twig on the ground snap from only inches behind me, I jumped over my hammock and ran barefoot on the cold ground to my car. I knew exactly where it was. I didn't have to worry about getting lost out there. What I did have to worry about was that voice coming again and again from behind me like a nightmarish echo. Soon I was in my SUV, racing away from the forest, not caring for the things that I'd left behind. I didn't see anything, and I didn't hear anything else once the door was shut. I didn't go back. Well, not until 2 weeks later. You see, that same night I realized I'd forgotten my wallet in the middle of the woods. It took me 2 full weeks from then to gather enough courage to actually go back. I made sure to arrive in the daytime, and by noon that same day, I'd found the spot exactly how I had left it. Hammock partially untied on the trees, tarp strewn above it, ashes where my campfire had been, and my wallet in the sole of one of my shoes, which were still at the base of one of the trees. I quickly packed away everything, and I power-walked back to my car. The whole time, my eyes were darting all over the place, to the left and to the right, ahead and behind me, fully expecting to see something from my worst nightmares, or at least hear something terrifying, something akin to that night. But I didn't. Though the walk out of the woods was stressful and anxious, I made it out alive, without so much as a hassle. And as I emerged from the tree line, I thanked my lucky stars. It was over. I could move on with my life, with this experience being something that only sat at the back of my mind, not at the forefront of my dreams. I thought to myself, as soon as I get back in town, I'm going to stop for a coffee and a slice of cheesecake, take my mind off of this whole creepy thing. Then I wouldn't ever have to come back to the woods. I walked around my SUV to the trunk, and I began to place everything in there, the goosebumps on my skin finally beginning to go down. But suddenly, my ears twitched, the way they do when you hear something familiar, the way they do when they hear your name being called. Because from the tree line, 10 or so yards away, I heard my voice calling my own name.
Zachary. Zachary.
I swallowed so hard, it hurt my throat. I slammed the trunk of my SUV shut, rattling the entire vehicle, and I jumped into the driver's seat, once again peeling away from those woods. This time, I didn't look back, because this time I knew if I glanced into the rearview mirror, if I looked back to the trees, I knew I'd see something standing there. I knew it would be something that I would never get over. If you're ever in the woods of Idaho, be wary of staying the night, especially on New Year's Eve, because something in that national forest can copy your voice. It can pretend to be you, and something tells me that it's always watching. That's why I'm never going back to those woods.